Hi there. Welcome to another Life is All About Choices conversation. Today I have a special guest and I love her. I know you hear me say that every week that I have fabulous people here to have conversations with, but you're really going to want to stay tuned today because my friend Bronwen has some exciting things to share with us. And before we go any farther, I'm just going to say, welcome Bronwen. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Nancy. Fantastic to be spending time with you, and I can't wait to see where our conversation goes.
Oh, I know. I'm excited. And just if you're new to these conversations, I have weekly conversations with people that inspire, motivate, and empower you, the listener or the viewer, depending on how you're watching this or listening to this. And I believe that if you're here, if you're listening to this, if you were called into tapping on the screen and saying, what are these two women talking about? You're here for a purpose, and so I welcome you. Bronwen, before we go any farther, can you tell everyone who you are, what you do, and why you're so fabulous?
Sure. So, my name is Bronwen Sciortino. I am an international author and simplicity expert, and I spend every day teaching people there's a very different way to live.
I love it. And so explain, please, what a simplicity expert is.
So, a simplicity expert is somebody who can help you to cut the noise, cut the complexity, and really pare things back to the things that are really important to you in your life so that you can find the simplest path to the greatest version of yourself.
And Bronwen, as so many people on these conversations that have these conversations with me have experienced, you have also experienced a dark night of the soul, something that you went through that maybe some people would just say, that's it, I give up, stick a fork in me, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So I spent almost 2 decades in as a high achiever in a corporate role. And my life imploded in a matter of minutes. So I went from fully functioning, award-winning executive to on the floor, unable to cope in the basics of life and unable to stop crying. And the catalyst of that was a diagnosis change from having been told that I had psoriasis on my left temple for about 8 years. And that changed to actually, no, it's not psoriasis, you've got cancer and you're going to need plastic surgery. And in the moment that that news was delivered to me, instead of really having that as a wake-up call and an opportunity to stop and review my life, I went straight into being really annoyed because it was something else that I had to schedule into my day. It was something else that I had to fit in. And I wasn't in the habit of doing anything for myself. There was no self-care, no self-compassion, and I did everything for everybody else. So for me, to try and have to find time to go and have something, that was a medical procedure for myself was really frustrating. So I gave myself half a day to have 6 centimeters of my head cut out. And then I was back that same afternoon on my laptop, working, sorting out everyone else's problems. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to the surgeon about 4 days later, and he took the staples and the stitches and the bandages off the wound. And I saw the wound for the first time, and the reflection back at me in the mirror looked like I had a quarter of my head missing. And in the moment that I saw that vision, the shock that I received was so significant that it literally flipped me into an alternate reality. And my whole world, my whole life just crumbled around me in seconds. And so it took me 2 years of the most intensive, invasive, and overwhelming work that I'd ever had to do in my life to get myself back to a point where I could cope in the basics of life. And it was another 12 months of that work before I really knew who I was, what I wanted to be doing, and how I wanted to be doing that.
And Bronwen, you have an amazing book. I love it, love it, love it. KISS. Keep it super simple. And the thing is that when you came into my life, it was shortly before or right as your first book was being published. And I love how the universe brings people into our lives at the exact right moment. And either those people are meant to be there for a short time or for a lengthy time. And I feel very blessed that you are one of those people that are still in my life. And, you know, with me living in California and you living, share the exact town where you live.
So I'm in Perth in Western Australia.
And
So the opposite side of the world.
exactly, literally at 180. And the thing is that you just never know when you make a connection on social media who is going to come into your life. And I wanted to take a quick second here and interject this thought into that, because you have been so instrumental in so many ways in my life, through your work, through our friendship, through the conversations that we have. And then with me being in California and you being in Australia, Perth to be exact, then I found myself in the Midwest, and you said, "Hey, Nancy, I'm going to be exactly where you are." And we had the opportunity to have a social gathering where you were able to share your book and then your second book coming out and talk about the empowerment piece that you give to the women in attendance. And it's so amazing to me that it wasn't that the universe brought you to my home in California. The universe brought you to where I was in the Midwest at that time when I was staying there. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is I want you, the viewer or listener, however you're tuning into this conversation, to stop and think for a minute, like, who has the universe brought into your life that maybe you're not paying attention to? Or what has the universe brought into your life, as in Bronwen's case, that she wasn't paying attention to? She had a sickness, you know, something going on medically that she was more perturbed about than paying attention to. So that was her wake up call. And very often in our lives, when something happens that we feel is catastrophic or, oh my gosh, you know, why is this happening to me? My life is over. Instead, when you can take a step back and say, oh, this is my opportunity to reevaluate, to look at how I've been living my life and the choices that we've been making. That's what these conversations are all about. Life is all about choices, and every choice we make has a condition, has an outcome, and based on that outcome, we make another choice. And when Bronwen was told that she needed to have a surgery, she scheduled it in and just didn't really want to pay attention to it and went right back to the very thing that the universe was tapping her on the shoulder and saying, hey, we need you to take a look at what you've been doing with your life. And another thing, it's the problem is never the problem. What we perceive as the problem is an opportunity for us to kind of wake up and say, oh, I get it. And Brian, when you live this message so beautifully and everything that you've done, I've watched you. I mean, book 2 and something else that's coming up that's really really fun. And then you went to California and you were on stage and you were sharing your message and your purpose and the very essence of your story with everyone in attendance. And what do you think got you to that point where you said, okay, I'm not going to allow what I think is an experience where my life is falling apart or my world is coming to an end, to getting you up on stage and writing books and publishing books and sharing with people a more simpler way to live their life? What do you think was finally that opportunity to give yourself permission to do that?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you said. And I guess my take on the, you know, with the challenges that come in life, there's almost an expectation that when you get your life under control, you don't have to have challenges anymore.
Yes.
But my experience is that the challenges, I have more challenges now with greater depth and so much more intensity than I ever had before. And they come so much more frequently. The difference is that I see them differently, and I live them differently now. So when I get those really big challenges that come up, I know in an instant that it's a signal for me to stop. There's something for me to learn. There's something for me to really take on board, really actually get into the depths of and understand. And that's for one of two reasons. It's either here to allow me to master what I need to master in this lifetime, or it's giving me a real depth of experience for me to then be able to share at a different level in the work that I do in the world, which ultimately helps me to achieve my life purpose. So, really the challenges that we have, those things that really feel mucky and icky and, painful, and it makes life feel like, it's not fair to me and all of that sort of stuff. That's the things that is our sign. There's something for us to learn here. Take notice. So when you can look at them like that, you can just stop and sit in the silence around it rather than get caught in the noise and the complexity and the spirals that go on around that. Just sit in the silence around that, find the lesson, and you'll be able to transition through it so much more easily, but also with so much more grace. Yeah. And then that makes life so much more pleasant. And, so much more fun. So, that, I guess, is one of the ways that, I really live what I live. I'm in the position now of doing what I do because I had to face one of my life's biggest challenges. During my recovery, in that minute when my life imploded, it was like shattering into a million pieces all around myself on the floor. And the only way through that was to pick up each piece individually, have a look at it, and really, put myself back together in a way that was going to serve me moving forwards. And I guess the first part of that is making a choice about whether I went back to life the way it was before, or whether that had been so painful that I needed to do things in a different way. So that's the first very basic choice that you make. Do I want to go back to what I was doing before? Do I want to do something differently? And so you've made that choice. Then you step into, well, I wanted to do something differently because, I had got to implosion point at a very young age. And, I had a significant portion, and still have a significant portion of my life ahead of me. If I had gone back to doing what I was doing before, I would have been dead at 45, So, and that's quite a sobering realization. The second thing I did was I learned to take the judgment out of the acknowledgements that I found about myself. So, like that acknowledgement of, if I go back to living the way I was living, I'm going to be dead at 45. Before, an acknowledgement like that would have sent me into a spiral around, I can't believe I was so dumb, how come I did all of that stuff to myself, and really quite harsh and nasty in my thoughts and beliefs about myself. So I had to really step into, actually, that's just a piece of information. Where do I go with that now? What choice do I make once I have that information? And that just cuts the noise and the complexity. So don't get stuck in the spiral. You can just ask the next question and step forward. And that makes my life so much, easier. But as I was recovering, one of the things that we discovered through the process of recovery was that I was terrified of writing anything personal down. Mm-hmm. So I had not written no journaling, nothing personal was written down anywhere ever, because it could be used as evidence against me that I wasn't perfect. So I was literally terrified of it. And when you're in that sort of counseling environment, when it's discovered that you're terrified of something, it becomes your homework.
Yes.
So, it took me 3 weeks to write one word on a page. Wow. That's how terrified I was of it. And because my life had collapsed and I couldn't really cope with anything other than the basics, that meant that I couldn't really cope with going anywhere, seeing anyone, really doing anything outside the home apart from just going for a walk. And so for the first 9 to 12 months of my recovery, I didn't really see anyone. And at about the same time as I was putting my toe in the water and starting to journal, I was also putting my toe in the water and starting to go back into social situations. And people hadn't seen me for such a long time. And they're sitting there saying, what have you been doing? Where have you been? And the only thing I could talk about without completely collapsing and, in tears and being quite traumatized was journaling. And so people started asking me what I was journaling about. And as I started to tell them some of the different things that I had been journaling about, they started saying, you have to write a book. You have to get this out into the world. The world desperately needs, the words that you're writing. So initially that was a massive overwhelm. I was very fragile. I was still really broken. And I've got people telling me I have to write a book, and it was something that I was really terrified of. But eventually what it did was give me a project to come back to a middle ground with, because I'd come from a highly scheduled life where every second was accounted for and there was never enough time. And then I broke and I went to the opposite end of the pendulum where I had nothing. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't see anyone. So I had nothing, no one relying on me, nothing to do for anybody else. So my time was completely free. So writing my first book gave me that middle ground to come back to, where I didn't have anybody relying on me, but I could just have some scheduled time that I could sit down and write. And it was very cathartic for me. It was very healing. I would write, half a chapter and be on the floor crying for 3 hours, because it was just really getting out a lot of the stuff that had been so buried within me for so long. And then that book went out into the world. It was published, and people were raving about it and loved it, and can't get enough of it, and this is amazing. But then people wanted different ways to work with me. It's, how else can we work with you? Can you come and speak for us? Can you come and do a workshop? Can you mentor me? Can you do all these things? And suddenly I found myself as an accidental entrepreneur with a business, working globally, doing all these things. So from there, it's just gone on, and the second book was published. The third one is about to come out in the next couple of weeks. And as you mentioned, I'm now finding myself on stages around the world, and just recently in Los Angeles on stage, being live streamed to 1 million people.
Yep.
Doing what I do. So for me, it would just kind of unfolded because I was in my flow and I'd made the choices to create my life the way I wanted to. But I also did it in a somewhat systematic way, which people can now easily put into their lives and find their path for what they want to do. So that has naturally been, attractive to a lot of people. And now I'm, living a very cool life, doing very cool things and meeting very cool people from all around the world.
Exactly. And, Bronwen, when you're talking in your book, the first book that you did, that you published, you talk about simplicity and keeping things simple. We often believe, are taught that life has to be hard, has to be difficult. And the busier we are, the more productive we are. And your book so beautifully shows that that's a belief. It's not a reality. It may be some people's reality, but it doesn't have to be every person's reality. And I don't know about you, but as I started my journey of self-discovery and started putting myself out into the world, there were times when I would share something, and then all of a sudden the realization of, wow, I was meant to share this. Holy moly, like, whoa. And you take a stop for a second and you think, who am I? And sometimes when you get to that, who am I, it can stop you. But then when you actually take it a step farther and say, well, I've been given this information and I know I'm supposed to share it. And then a whole new realization comes over you with, who am I? Well, I'm this person that's supposed to share this because there are a lot of people out there waiting for this information. Have you had those like light bulb moments as well?
Yeah, I think for me, the greatest realization for me around that was, um, it's about owning the greatness within yourself.
Yes.
So the easiest way I have to explain that
Mhm.
is, if we all sit back and don't take the best version of ourselves into the world, it would be like all of us turning up to a buffet where we all have to bring a plate of food, and we all say, "Well, I know that I'm an amazing, I'm an amazing cook, and I know that I can bring the best dish ever. But if I do that, then everybody else will feel bad. So I'll just bring a plate of plain white boiled rice." And all of us have that same thought, and all of us turn up to the buffet with a plate of plain white boiled rice. And all of the dishes go on the table. They're all identical because none of us have wanted to stand out. None of us have wanted to actually bring the best dish ever to the buffet so nobody feels bad. And then we all sit around and we say, wow, this is really yummy. This is really great. And inside, we're all just like, oh man, this is so boring. That's what happens when we don't bring the greatest version of ourselves to the table. Life's boring, life's bland. There's no color, and there's no real expansion. There's no growth. There's no development. So think of it this way: if you don't bring the greatest version of yourself to the table, the world is not whole.
Yes.
The world has a slice of pie missing.
Yeah.
And that is where you haven't turned up. So bring your slice of pie. Be the greatest version of yourself, because without it, the world can't do what the world needs to do.
And something that came to me when you were sharing that story is, what do we do next then? Because everyone's eating the same white boiled rice, and there's really nothing to compliment or talk about. Or so what do we do? Then we start talking about the dish the rice was brought in.
Yeah.
And it's not about the dish. It's
Mm-mm.
about what's in the dish.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I love that analogy because, I think that there are a lot of people still who are hesitant to step forward and, first of all, just admit that they're here for greatness. Every one of us is here for greatness, but there are still so many people who step back and think they're supposed to be the audience watching the great people. And that's not true at all. I mean, you think about like a dance competition. Everyone is there because they're really great at what they do. Yes, maybe at the end there's a first prize, second prize, third prize, or whatever. But the thing is, they're all there to share their greatness. So when you just ask yourself, what is it that I love to do? What is it that lights me up? What is it that I could just do all day long and not ever get tired of it? And start there. But
Yeah, but also, what is the thing that comes really easily and simply to you?
mhm.
What is the thing that you can do without thinking? Because that thing is the thing that everyone else struggles with. And
So
we forget that. We think because it's so easy for us that it's nothing.
exactly. So when you were in a very high-powered corporate world, though, what was the thing that came so easily to you that you find yourself doing now that you were doing then, but didn't realize um, that you didn't have to do it in that high-powered way? What was that for you?
For me, I've always been really efficient with time, with the allocation of tasks. I've always known how to get things done quickly, quietly, and efficiently.
Hmm.
And so for me, when everyone else talks about the mountain of emails that they've got and the this and the that, I don't have 3,000 emails I haven't checked. My emails are under control. Um, for me, it was always, I don't treat my mobile phone as a way for people to constantly be contacting me. A mobile phone is there if I need to give someone a call. I've always had that mindset around that. And in fact, that was something that my dad taught me very early on, which I'm very grateful for. So I don't have a phone that rings off the hook. I have a lot of my correspondence that goes through email or through social media, which is great. So I've always been very efficient with all of that. But what I do differently now is the time of the day that I do that.
That's awesome, because rather than allowing someone else to manage your time, you manage your time in a way that's most productive and loving for you.
Yes.
I love that. And something that I have found that really works for me too is so many people are tied to their phones. Our smartphones are always, they beep because of this and ding because of this and light up because of this. And more often than not, I have my phone face down, and the ringer off, because I don't want something constantly calling my attention to something, because you don't realize how that pulls you in a direction. But there are a lot of people who feel very disconnected from life, without that tether of the phone. And so I think this is where we as a society and individually can take a look at what is that need doing for us, that need to be tethered to
Where's the
social media.
distraction?
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
it
where's the distraction?
that pulls the focus, and where are you not allowing yourself to go within and sit with yourself? And as you were talking about your 9 months, your 12 months of being in seclusion, basically, I had an experience where I found myself in not a similar situation medically, but in a situation where I'm like, wow, I'm in this situation that from the outside can be deemed as, you're not doing what you normally do on a daily basis. And rather than, when people were mentioning that to me, I thought, wow, why is this such a hard concept for others to really understand, believe, and take in, that I am okay with who I am inside, which is what makes wherever I am a peaceful place to be.
Mm.
And I think that we are not allowing ourselves that peaceful place to be from the inside out, when we're constantly pulled to technology, or a ding or a beep, or something like that. What are your
Yeah, I
thoughts?
think we are taught to judge. So we're taught to have a look at what's outside ourselves and judge that, whatever's in front of us,
Mhm.
and then through that judgment, deem whatever we're seeing as right or wrong. And then depending on where the right or wrong sits, we then compare ourselves to the right or the wrong, because that then tells us where we're at in comparison. So it's, that compare game. And
Yes.
I think, we spend so much time doing that. We don't even know that we're doing it. It's subconscious, because we've been trained from such a young age to do it. And we spend so much time doing that. It is just a complete distraction from actually looking inside and finding our own answers. So, and I think we don't want to do that, because we've also been taught, once we know our answers, we have to go into that noise and complexity and that spiral around whether we're right or wrong, good or bad, acceptable or not. And I think if we can just get rid of the judgment and have a look at what's in front of us and simply look at it from the point of view of, I am that or I am not that. That's a characteristic that I align with. That's a characteristic that I don't align with. And you just take the person out of the situation, have a look at the characteristics, and simply align to what is you and what isn't you. And then spend your time going and moving towards the things that you are aligned with. And that just helps you more easily find your pathway in life. And it just means you don't have to spend the time getting into the criticism and getting wrapped up in the that's good or bad, or you just simply allow people to make their own decisions. As an adult in life, we are all allowed to make our own choices.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not that's the same choice that I would have made is completely irrelevant, because I should be worried about or thinking about the choices that I need to make for my life, not the choices that you're making for your life. You make choices for your life. I look at them and say, I am that or I am not that. And that's the simplicity of it. Just leave it there. If you are doing something that is an I am and I'm aligned to that, great. I want to come and spend time with you doing that, because I know that keeps me on my path. As soon as I start going into, well, I am not that, so Nancy, what are you doing? That's ridiculous. You're ruining your life. I'm straight into judgment, straight into criticism, straight into comparison, and that gets me nowhere. That just adds complexity and noise. So if we can just drop that, and really, it just gives us the simplicity of our next step by just looking at the characteristic I am not, and just leaving it at that.
And what came to my mind when you were sharing that is our connections with other people. So when someone is in your life that maybe you're not really in alignment with, and so you somehow take it on, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, that I have got to show this person how to change. I have got to show this person how they need to be different or think differently. And I love the simplicity of what you just said, because when we can say, I am not that, now we realize, oh, okay, if I am not that, then that's not what I need.
It's not my business.
Yeah, to do. And one of the things that's also really, really important around that subject is, we're all here to learn lessons, right, Bron? We're all here to be taught things in different ways. So when we really accept that, just really, really just stop for a second. And I know it's a very simple statement, but when you really accept that, then when you find yourself judging another person, like, I have to teach them not to do that, or I have to show them a different way to do that, or I have to, what you're really saying is, I believe that I need to take that lesson away from that person. And who are we to take anything from anyone? And so when you can go into the I am or I am not, and you could say, okay, I am not that energy, that conversation, that space, whatever, and do it without judgment. That's when you start to simplify your life and step back, and you realize that the less you stop doing for others because you're not taking on the world anymore, and you start being more of who you are and owning your own internal glorious, wonderful self, you're more peaceful. You're more at peace with the world and yourself and your life. And that's when you're in a place energetically where more of that peace and tranquility seeps into your life.
I think the other lesson that I really needed to learn was, I used to do everything for everyone because I thought that I was taking their load and I was making their life easier.
Yep.
But actually, something I needed to learn was that by taking someone else's load and trying to, in particular, take away their pain, or, take away difficult challenges from their life. So, because, I have a lot of strength. And so I used to believe that strength had to be used to actually make everyone else's life easier, until I realized that I was actually extending the amount and the time that those people were in pain and within that conflict, because I wasn't allowing them to learn the lessons they needed to learn so that they could actually transition through it. So I was actually inadvertently making their life harder by trying to make their life easier. And so one of the lessons I needed to learn was that real ability to still give, love and support, but step back and let people go through what they need to go through so they can transition and learn the things that they need to learn. Because you can't grow and develop without that. It's not about whether or not you have your challenges, like I said before. It's about how you welcome them and how you transition through them. So if you want to help someone through that process, really teach them that a challenge is great because it's a sign that there's something for you to learn, and to really find that stillness around that challenge so that they can learn what they need to learn and transition through it with ease and grace.
And something that came up for me when you were talking about that is family members, how we grow up in a family unit and we play off of each other, and then we create certain beliefs about how we are helping that person. Oh, that's my brother, so I need to be there in this way. That's my sister, so I need to be there in this way. My mother, my father, whoever. And so when you get to like family gatherings and you feel like, oh, this is not what I want to do, this is not where I want to be, that's your opportunity to step back and say, well, what have I taken on from childhood that I created a belief around that is a must do? This is what I must do, that I could just let go of, that I could simply say, oh, no, I must not do that anymore. That's not what I need to do. That was never intended for me to do. It was something somewhere along the way in childhood that I took on to myself and then kept building on, that I can now let go of. And when you can do that, oh my gosh, it's so freeing.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that within a family unit, each family member is assigned a role.
Mm-hmm.
And the family unit usually dysfunctionally operates with everybody in their role. But you don't know that it's dysfunctional because to you it feels normal, because that's how it's always been.
Right.
And that unit actually can't become functional until you step out of a role that's been given to you that actually doesn't serve you. So, sometimes you do have to look at the role that you've been given, and if it's not working for you, if it is in that dysfunctional setup, you have to look at that and you have to say, is this how I want to live my life? Is this serving me? Am I aligned with what I'm being asked to do? Am I doing a whole heap of things that are continually draining my energy? Am I constantly carrying the load for other people? Are there other people who aren't doing what they need to do for them to learn their lessons and expecting me to step in and do that for them? And then find the ways that you can, take a step in a slightly different direction, do things in a slightly different way that's more, supporting of you and what you need. And you don't have to change everything completely all at once. You can do things in tiny little steps. And when you do things in tiny little steps, it makes it so much easier to get to your end goal more quickly. And I always like to say, if you put a compass on your hand and you were walking due north, but you decide to change it just 1 degree and go 1 degree off due north, where you end up will be significantly different, but you've only changed it 1 degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about the magnitude of what you do. You can do tiny little things and significantly change the direction of your life. So never forget that it doesn't matter what direction the step is in. It can be backwards, forwards, up, down, left, right, diagonally, whatever. It's not about the direction. It's about taking a step, because movement creates energy and energy creates intent.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you brought movement into it, because that's the easiest way. And I think when you're feeling out of sort, so to speak, anything that you feel is not going right, or you're having a bad day, or however it is that you look at it, move your body, whether you turn on some music and, do the funky chicken or whatever,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
or do yoga, or,
Get
whatever, go
outside.
for a walk.
Get outside.
Yes. When you can do that, it's moving energy. And when you move energy, now everything else starts to shift
Yep.
as well. And,
Yep.
there's energy. We're all energy. We're made up of energy. Everyone thinks that we're a solid being, but when you look with a powerful microscope, you see like, oh, hey, this is just energy vibrating, and, it comes together as a human being, or a plant, or a tree, or a stone,
Yep.
or rock, whatever. And so when you start to move that energy, and then understand that, okay, so if you're energy, that means your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, everything is made of energy. Now you realize that you are this vibrating, pulsing energy. And so energy connects. We connect to people, places, things, and you start realizing the magnitude of what is possible because you no longer see yourself in a form, like in this box. Your energy means it's infinite. It can just keep going. It can just keep being and doing. And when you start to see the limitless possibilities, now you're not so contained in what you believe to be true, where you believe you have to stay, or a hierarchy of anything, because there's no form. Everything just flows when you allow it to flow. And that, and it's just to realize it is move your body, change
Yep.
the energy, shift the energy. And for people who like you were talking about, in your corporate work, you're contained to an office or a desk, or you don't get out of a specific space and you're there constantly, you're creating this dense energy. And unless you can move it and shift it and make it take a different form, because anything that we're doing is malleable, but we tend to think like, no, it's solid, it needs to stay here. And when you can shift out of that mindset and just flow like water, everything changes, because everything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Totally. And if you are stuck in that corporate environment, in that office, move, get up at least every hour. Even if it means you have to use your calendar. You put the alarm on your calendar that just says breathe or move or stretch or whatever, so that you can actually just constantly have that movement in motion.
Yes. Even if someone thinks like, what, she's going to the bathroom again? What's going on? Get up and move around, and never allow someone to tell you, you have to do this. And I think that's going back to your I am that or I am not that. And when you feel put upon, like someone's forcing you to do something and it doesn't feel right to you, pay attention to that feeling, because our feelings are the compass or the guidance system that we have. Your feelings they're basically leading the way. Like, this feels good, so I'm going to do more of this. This doesn't feel so great, so I want to do less of that, maybe none of that. And pay attention to how you're feeling, and you'll start to see like that guides you. I want to do more of this and less of this. I want to be around this person, not so much around this person. And when you can really pay attention to your feelings, because that's your higher self saying, this is what fills you up, this is what depletes you. Do more of what fills you up and less of what depletes you.
Yes. Yep. Completely right.
And it
totally agree.
It also gives you the opportunity to really understand, like, what is it that I'm here to experience? What is it that I'm meant to do? And we all have the answers inside of us. But I think that so many people are waiting for direction from someone else. Oh, you need to do this, or you need to go there. You need to, I don't know, complete
Eat this,
this.
be that.
Yes. And so when we're being told to do something or be something or not do something or act this way or don't act this way, we're putting ourselves in this box. And just remind yourself that everything is energy. Therefore, it cannot be contained in a box. So what happens when everything just flows like water? And when you give yourself that opportunity to be more in flow than solid, you're also opening yourself up for new experiences, new opportunities.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the thing is that the more you find the things that really feed your soul. So the things that you come away from and you just feel, you've got loads of energy. You've come away from it thinking, wow, I just laughed so much when I was there. the things that really give you joy,
Yes.
the more you do those things, the more those things will come into your life. The more the opportunities that just come across your path that you just would never have thought were possible. And I know, there's so many, you would know because, you're connected with me through social media. And, so many people say to me, oh, you have the coolest life ever. And it's like, well, I do, because I actively go where I'm aligned. I actually actively go to the places that bring me joy.
Yes.
So, you often see photos of me laughing or, doing the most amazing things because that just is naturally coming into my life now because that's where I'm aligned.
Absolutely. And you're attracting more of that into your life because, people want to be around people that make them feel good. Um, that saying by Maya Angelou, people may forget what you tell them, but they'll never forget how you made them
How you make them
feel.
feel. Yeah.
So, again, this goes back to what you're feeling. Do more of what feels good and less of what doesn't feel so good, because that is your internal guidance, like letting you know, like, yeah, this is the path. No. And when you're doing things that you love, like I love to dance. I just love to dance. And sometimes I'll just shut the door and put headphones on. And sometimes I think to myself, like, oh my gosh, if someone would see me, especially not being able to hear the music, they'd be like, what is going on? But it's my happy dance. I love it. I love how I feel. I love what it does for me. And sometimes it can be, I don't know, a long time dancing, sometimes just maybe one song. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Let's hit the bricks now. Let's see what we've got going on now. What's going on next? And we can do these things for ourselves, but when we tell ourselves or convince ourselves like, oh, I can't do that unless I have Bronwen's lifestyle, or I can't do that unless I have, the Kardashian lifestyle or something, then that's when we are limiting ourselves. Because I believe culturally, we're taught that happiness and true joy comes from the outside. When you get this, when you obtain this, when you reach this level, you'll be there. And then you get there and you're like, well, there's no
Is this it? Is this
there.
it?
Yeah. So what do I do? And that's why when you stop reaching for the external and start tapping into the internal, then wherever you are is the perfect place, because you're bringing the joy, love, happiness, excitement, wonderment with you everywhere you go.
Yeah, and I think as well, one of the other things that I have done through my life in Bronwen 2.0 is I've replaced the words success and failure with adventure and explore.
I love it.
So, as soon as you use the word success and failure, there's automatically pressure and stress and exhaustion in everything that you do because everything is completely reliant on it there being an outcome. If you can replace success and failure with adventure and explore, then what you do is you bring what I like to call the holiday mindset into your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So, we claw our way to the next holiday. We just grimly hang on with our fingernails to get ourselves to the next break. And when we get on that break, we relax. You sleep better. You don't really have as much issue around what you eat and how much you eat and when you eat. You don't care if you don't go to the gym every day and punish yourself. You're more prepared to go and try new foods, new activities, new places, because there's no pressure around whether or not it's successful. Your whole life is not reliant on whether or not that one activity that you go and do on holidays turns out to be the greatest thing that you've ever done. So bring that mindset into your everyday life and just explore an adventure with what you do. So, um, find the things that you love to do, and just pick one of them and go and do it. And if you absolutely love it, do it again and see how you go. Rather than, here's my week and I now have to go and do 15 extra things. I don't know how I'm going to put them in, but Bronwen and Nancy said that I have to. So I'm going to go and put these 15 things in, and now I'm totally exhausted and I don't know, and this hasn't worked. It's not about that. It's about just put your toe in the water and ebb and flow and see what works for you and what doesn't. And just try one thing at a time. Do things in little steps and find the things that give you energy so that you can have so much more to give to other people on the other side of that.
Absolutely. And the same holds true with people who live in a mindset of the work week. Oh, it's Sunday night and I dread tomorrow because I have to go to work. And so then they wish away a whole week. Oh, I wish it was Friday and I'd like to do this. And it's not, so then people think, well, I have to go to work, I have to pay the bills, I have to do, but we're not talking about the physical, we're talking about the mental. What is it in your mind that you love doing in the not work time that you're not allowing yourself or giving yourself permission to do during the week time? Do more of that, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if something is keeping you from that, that's what your higher self is tapping you on the shoulder and trying to get you to look at. And that's what you're resisting. That's what you're ignoring. And we think we're in control. And it's like, nope, I got it. I can do this. But the universe will work its wonders to bring that into your realization, such as your surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, it will happen.
But I think the other thing too, in what you're saying there is, does the work week even exist anymore?
Exactly.
Technology, work and life is so overlapped now. So there's so much of work that now comes into the personal time that we're so wrapped up in it's Sunday and I wish it was Friday because then it would be Saturday. But actually, our night times aren't really our own anymore. Our weekends aren't really our own anymore because we spend so much of them. They're heads down in our phones, sending emails back, doing this, doing that, because we feel like we have this technology, therefore we must be responsive immediately. But if we change the perception on that slightly and understand that if we respond immediately, we're just teaching people that we're available all the time.
Absolutely.
If we just have a couple of times a day where you check an email or check your emails on your phone and you don't respond to stuff that's not urgent, then you're teaching people that you respect your energy and you respect yourself enough to recharge so that you've got loads to give, in dedicated work time. So that's about changing the perception around immediacy and the need to do everything now and the need to be responsive and the need to be seen to be busy, because if you're not busy, you can't be successful. So change the perception around that and actually change the perception to, I value my health. I value re-energizing. I value that because I want to make sure that when I'm in work mode, I'm switched on, I'm fully fueled with my energy, and I can give you the best version of myself. When you take that stance, you can actually start to manage the expectations of other people and support yourself through that process as well.
Absolutely. And another thing that came up for me when you were saying that was about judgment. Like if we send someone a text message or an email or whatever, or leave them a voicemail, and then we're saying like, they haven't gotten back to me. They haven't gotten back to me. When we get in the mindset of doing for ourselves and taking what we need, then instead of saying they haven't gotten back to me, what's wrong? There must be something going on, or, oh my gosh, am I not important anymore? No, then we start to say, no, that person is doing what's best for them.
Correct.
And they will get back to me when it's best for them. And I, in turn, will do what's best for me. Now we start a whole new way of
being.
Yes. And a whole new way of flow. Less judgment, more creativity, more allowing, more flow. It's a really wonderful way to live.
It's simple, right?
Exactly. Simple. And it's a more abundant way to live. Abundance of feeling emotionally fulfilled, and just that abundance of connectivity to everything and nothing. And it's about,
it's being connected without being connected.
it is it's a wonderful feeling. It's a letting go. It's a letting go. And I'm always talking about go beyond your story. So when you tell yourself that something has to be whatever it is that you're saying, so okay, that's your story. Can you go beyond that story? Can you just ask yourself, okay, so what if there's more? What if there's an unknown variable and I've created the story around only what I know? Is it possible? And just that's all you have to ask yourself, is it possible? Because everything is possible. Everything is possible. So when you say, okay, if everything is possible, then it is possible that there could be more to the story than what I'm seeing. And therefore you can let go of judgment of yourself and others and what's going on around you. And it just keeps opening you up again to just be free flowing and just limitless.
Yeah. And in every moment, just do the best you can.
Absolutely.
Be the best version of yourself that you can, and without any judgment. Whatever you do and wherever you are and whatever your reaction is, whatever is the best version of you in that moment.
Absolutely.
That's the best that you can do.
Right now. Now it's right now. And when you just everything right now. And if you just sit back and say, oh my gosh, right now I'm feeling awesome. Or right now I'm feeling scared or worried, and then you can ask yourself, okay, so why? What is the story that I've built around that? What is the belief about that story that I've built around that? Can I let it go? Will I let it go? Or do I need to hold on to it for a little bit longer because that's what makes me feel secure in my world right now? And thinking anything other than that, I can't handle that right now. So know where you are constantly and what you can let go of, what you need to hold on to, what you're willing to let go of. And just know.
And all of that's perfectly fine, no matter what the answer is to any of that. You don't need to create another story around why you're where you're at and why you can't let go of things. And it's the simplicity of the acknowledgement. This is where I'm at right now, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. KISS. Keep it super simple. Just every time you want to make it difficult, keep it super simple. Keep it super simple. Speaking of keeping it super simple, Bronwen, talk to us, please, about your books, what's coming up. I know you've got some really things that you're like, ooh, secrets, sneak peeks. What's going on?
Yep. So Keep It Super Simple and The Economy of Enough, my first two books, they're out there. You can get them now. You can get them through my website, which is bronwensciortino.com, or you can get them from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, 170 of the biggest online retailers around the world, hard copy or e-copy, available in both. My next book is due out in the next couple of weeks. I haven't actually told anyone what it's called yet, so I'll give you the first. You can be the first in the world to know.
Oh, all right.
It's called Beyond Aha.
Ooh.
So all about your aha moments. What I was finding was people were saying to me, oh, I just love what you do. I love your work. I love your books. I really want more stuff that can help me to just really easily make change in my life. And what I was noticing was that people were saying to me they were having all these big aha moments, but they're getting stuck in them. So they're having these aha moments. It's like you get the clarity. I can see that clearly. Oh my goodness, wow, aha, I get that. And then what do I do with it now? So what I've done is create, it's more of a journal format than the first two books were more books with a little bit of journaling. This is actually the other way around. So this is much more of a journal format. I've found 52 quotes. Half of them are mine and half of them are from different people around the world, different, lifetimes, different, all of that sort of stuff that have really made an impact on me or given me moments of clarity in my life. I've written a little bit of context around that quote, which talks about how we can get given life rules around the particular topic in the quote and how that can, maybe hold us back. And then I've created a question that you can ask yourself, an overarching question that you can ask yourself. And then there's a journaling section at the back of, that creates the chapter. And then at the back of the chapter, there's a journaling section that gives you questions that you can ask yourself about that topic. So you can actually start to unpack and get your aha moments about that life rule. And then it takes you into other questions that can help you to actually start transitioning through that. So it really gives you, there's 52 of them, one for each week of the year. Mm-hmm. And it really gives you the basis of how you can start to school yourself and teach yourself to really get your aha moments in life and then move forward with them in a different way. So you can start to create a different way of living around that. So Beyond Aha, 52 powerful ways to start challenging life's rules will be out in the next couple of weeks. You've got the exclusive, brand new sneak peek. Keep an eye out for it. And they make great Christmas presents.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be a fabulous gift, whether it's, the holidays, birthdays, a thinking of you time.
New Year's resolutions done in a different way.
Yes. Or you're having, meeting a friend for coffee and you just say, you know what, I came across this and I bought you a copy because, maybe this is something that you have been looking for an answer to. And again, it's go with your feeling. You'll know, like, I think this friend could use this. And do it without judgment. Not like you're saying she needs to change her life or he needs to change his life. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, wouldn't it be amazing we can do this together?
Exactly. And just, again, go with that feeling. Like, what fills you up? You'll know if you're doing something because you're forcing a belief on someone else. That doesn't feel good. It feels forced. And so you'll know, like, okay, no, that's what I want to pull back from. And same way with, whatever you're resisting. If you're resisting something, it's your higher self saying, maybe, you want to go left instead of right, or up instead of down. And your work depicts all of this so beautifully, Bronwen. I'm so excited for you to share this going beyond your aha with the world, because there are so many people looking for ways to go beyond their story, go beyond what you've been taught to believe is true.
Yep. Yeah, so that was the idea behind it. That's the purpose behind it. And there's so many people, their eyes are just like lighting up. I can't wait for this. Because I talk big picture, high concept, but nobody has really known what it's called yet. So you guys are the first in the world.
Well, something just came to my mind is maybe we'll start seeing hashtag or tweetable moment, live a Bronwen life.
How about live your own life?
Because no, like people are always saying, like, oh, I have to have Bronwen's life. But it's like, it's a live a Bronwen life, like live a lovely life, you have such a beautiful name. And so it could be like another word for just something that your people are looking for, like, simple words are words. They have the meanings that we give them, and we often misuse words and we don't even realize it or pay attention to it, with all the LOL and BFF and all that. And so start
BTW.
Find a word that means something to you, something you can relate to. And so something that Bronwen is doing that fills you up and, just makes you feel more hopeful, more, more into your life, just more. And then you could say, yeah, I'm going to live a Bronwen life. Meaning, how can you take the concepts that she's teaching and sharing and put it into your life, and now take that and start to flow the way your life is meant to go. I love that.
So what you're saying is, instead of life of Brian, we can have life of Bron.
There you go. I love it. Oh, Bronwen, thank you so much for being here and having this beautiful conversation with me. I just feel so empowered having this conversation with you, and I just know that anyone who tunes into this conversation is going to be uplifted as well.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. It's amazing how our conversations take us, all over the place, from opposite sides of the world. So I'm really grateful for technology and the ability to connect in the way that we do. Yeah, I really hope that this goes out to everybody that needs to hear it, and they can just take one little step in a slightly different way so that they can really change the direction of their life.
Thank you. And again, if something that we said here today resonates with you, subscribe to this channel, share it, leave comments, please, because it allows other people to take a look and say, wonder what this is all about. And we can only give so much information in the description, but everyone who's willing to take a couple minutes and comment on what you got out of it, you then in turn help someone else to make a decision to take the time to listen to this conversation, watch this conversation, and then get what they need to get out of it. And we just it just keeps flowing. We just keep letting things be infinite. And it's such a powerful way for us to connect with each other and share what we're learning and continue to grow and be infinite in any way possible.
Yeah, and just on that note, if there's somebody listening that, a question came up for you, feel free to reach out and ask the question. Nancy and I'm sure, are both happy to, get in there and do what we can, and technology allows us to do that. So don't be shy, ask questions. We're happy to help where we can.
Yes, if something comes up, leave a comment. They come to me, and if you have a question for me, I will answer it. And if you have a question for Bronwen, I will forward it to her and let her know. Both of us, we will get back to you. That's what we're here for. It's not about one person knowing more than the other. It's just simply about the knowledge being born before the knowledge of someone else. And that that's what we're here to share that knowledge with the world. And
Yep.
the more we all share, the more we all just expand. And that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So
Definitely.
Bronwen, again, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you who are listening or watching this conversation, I truly appreciate everything that you are and be and do and have, and your ability to share and just be part of my world. So please connect, subscribe, and let us know how we might be able to help you going forward. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller saying ciao for now.